region is very unique. It's a shithole. Not in a gameplay sense, but like as an actual region to live in, to have adventures in. But it's our first destination, so you know what? Let's explore it anyway. Now, as far as I know, this is the first not Japan-inspired region. I think it's modeled after Phoenix in Arizona, the United States. Need some fact check on that. The landscape is a little bit awful though. There are some pretty places, but you know, not all of them have that chance. It's a wasteland in more ways than one. The towns look in bad shape, there's not even any wild Pokemon from like the first game out of 2. Nature seems to be in a really bad spot in general. It just doesn't seem like a good place to live in. I'm sorry to everyone in Phoenix, Arizona, if the city is actually like this. But even all of that is nothing compared to the true problem of this region. The crime is so prevalent, it's way more than in other regions. Some towns are completely under control, they derail ships, they capture Lugia, they experiment on Pokemon without pretty much any consequences, they kidnap people, they explode buildings, they steal other trainers' Pokemon, and not even civilians like in other regions, but accomplished Pokemon trainers' Pokemon. And you know, when you think about law enforcement bodies in Pokemon, they pretty much have 3 categories. You have the local police officers, most of them are useless. You got the international police, as far as I know, they only work on specific cases. They're not like active on all the regions all the time, they're not protecting everyone. I think they follow specific profiles like Giovanni or like the big boys of crimes basically. The only real law enforcement body that see any kind of success are gym leaders and especially the champion. There's a problem with that, Orre doesn't have a Pokemon League. So crime just gets to bloom with no real counterpower. Oh, excuse me, there's the Kid Network. Yeah, in Orre, children are the best bet against crime, and that's impressive, and scary, and sad. The biggest criminal action of this region, of course, are Shadow Pokemon. The Buff Colosseum XD feature these Pokemon that were experimented on to have the doors to their hearts shut down artificially. It boosts their power, but makes them kind of insane, at least. It works differently a bit between games, we're not gonna get into that, it's mostly gameplay stuff, I wanna keep this focused on story. It sounds very horrible, but it is interesting as a concept. Especially because of how you counter it with the purification process. You either A, go to Celebi's relic in Agate village? Agate? Agate? I don't know, I'm sorry, I'm French. But anyway, to the village. Which in itself is a very interesting location we'll talk about a bit later, but you need to bond with the Pokemon first. Or second, in XD, people just make a purification machine that replicates this. Somehow. It's a bit technical, I'm not sure I got it. Other villainous teams in Pokemon are implied or just they say they're using stolen Pokemon, but in Colosseum and XD you actually see it happen, and even worse, you do it yourself. Snagging, or snatching in French for some reason, is how you capture all Pokemon in Colosseum and most of them in XD. We steal from the thieves, which is okay. You sometimes get to keep the Pokemon you steal though, and that's a problem. They don't really come back to the legitimate owners, except in like one case. I guess in a way, us having to resort to that is a testament to both Snagem and Cypher's influence. Snagem being like the grunts, you know? They're the brawn, basically. And Cypher is more the brains behind, even though they still fight with you. It's basically some kind of deal like Team Skull in the Ether Foundation of Sun and Moon, if you see what I mean. It's pretty similar. Shadow Lugia in particular is impressive because it's an almost impossible to purify Pokemon. It's also a legendary Pokemon, so that means those bitches caught a Lugia and managed to make it almost impossible to save, and that's scary. It's not even the first legendary Pokemon they catch, but the rest of them are just regular Shadow Pokemon, and Lugia is specifically fucked up. I don't know if the specific process of Shadow Pokemon are canon. Oh, we're gonna get into something real complicated. So, in Pokemon Go, Shadow Pokemon are made by Team Rainbow Rocket. Well, Team Go Rocket, I think that's their name in Pokemon Go. The process seems similar, yet different. It's implied that they're the ones that invented them, even though we kind of know better, you know? And here's the thing, you would be tempted to say, oh, but my dear friend, this is Pokemon Go, it doesn't matter. It kind of does, because Team Rainbow Rocket in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon hint at the invasion of the real world by Pokemon Go. You know, it's kind of Pokemon Go story things, I wasn't there for it, so I've missed. But I know this is what the epilogue of Team Rainbow Rocket's episode leads to. So, it's closer to being canon, than Colosseum in XD, which I think is kind of funny. It's crazy at least, right? The fact that the events of Colosseum and XD are never explicitly mentioned or referred to is insane, and there's also something like Pokemons have a met location, right? It's basically a text that says, oh, I've met this Pokemon in the Orre region in Kalos, or if you're in the same region, it will say the specific place, like, oh, Route 101. I don't know, it's just like an example. Pokemon from Colosseum and XD are just mentioned as being met in a distant land. And this is not exclusive to English, this is, as far as I know, in every language. In French, it's also stated as like, pays distant, which is like distant country, specifically. So yeah, it's like Orre's existence is not really recognized in other games. And I wonder if that means that this adventure is not canon or is like, could be canon in another timeline but not the main one kind of deal, you know? If there is even the main timeline in Pokemon, that's a discussion we're gonna need to have after Pokemon X and Y, at least. Anyway, crime aside, let's talk a little bit about the landmarks I find interesting in this region. First are the Colosseums. They're like rough 30 versions of stadiums that we could see in Pokemon Stadium. It's especially interesting considering the lack of proper gyms, and I want to contrast this with Galar specifically. They have a tournament/league system where basically every gym hosts a mini tournament to get the right to fight the gym leader. And then instead of fighting the Elite Four, you have a final tournament with people winning the gym challenge being drafted in it. I think it's kind of interesting, honestly. It's a good separation of the more classic league system. But here, the lack of structure and unifying all of the different Colosseum really makes them different. Some of them are owned or controlled by Cypher though, because, you know, crime is a big thing, what's more. This is kind of a reoccurring theme when we discuss the Orre region. Agat Village, once more, sorry about the pronunciation. This is a village for retired champions and other successful ace trainers. It's lush, it's peaceful, it's quiet. It's honestly one of the only comfy places you can find in the entire region. There is a relic honoring Celebi, and with a time flute you can actually call them to help purify one of your Pokemons. This place is kind of cute, I like it. I like having like a safe haven for elderly Pokemon trainers to just rest and, well, wait for their timely demise. But they live with their old Pokemon, with their training partners, and I think that's cute. I love seeing that kind of location of people just having, you know, just spending times of their lives with their Pokemon. I want to see more of that thing. I want to see casual, normal-ass life with Pokemons at your side. That's all I want from the series at this point, honestly. In total opposite vibes, the Under. This is an underground town controlled by Cypher, which is very not cute. In XD, it's actually abandoned to avoid Cypher pawns just hiding in it after the incident that happened in Colosseum. Not much to say, except that, you know, it's not comfy. Gatian Port, again, shorter diatribe, but I actually kind of like this location because, again, it shows normal life in Pokemon World. I love seeing industrial places, and while it's not the case here, I love when they show, oh, this is the job I do, like, I don't know, we're a moving out company, and we use Pokemon in this way to help us. I think it's cute, and it's really just simple world building that does a ton for my appreciation of a Pokemon story. We have Pokespots. Those are the rare only places that have wild Pokemon. It's only in XD, not in Colosseum. It shows that nature is kind of healing in Orre, and that's kind of nice. They're also fairly limited though. You need snacks to bait Pokemon, there's only 3 species there, and if I recall correctly, there's only 3 Pokespots total. So yeah, we definitely need some tall grass to grow very soon. And finally, Mount Battle, a volcano that serves as a training place for trainers. It's split between 10 zones in which you have to face 10 trainers, so you have to face a total 100 trainers in a row! This was not funny. I know I said I wouldn't talk about gameplay, but this was a trial, and I wanted to get ribbons on my Pokemon, so I had to do it. Haha. At the very least, it's a cool setting, and again, it's a place that's firstly held by Cypher before you liberate it in Colosseum. Are you seeing a trend yet? Now, I want to talk about the impactful characters that come from the Orre region. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Orre doesn't have any strong characters, honestly. Mirror B, kinda? We take what we can get. The antagonists are especially bad, and almost everyone is one. The few allies you do get on that story are not that interesting. I guess there's the fucking Robo Groudon kid that's interesting. I mean, he was funny, he got some chuckles out of me, that's not bad. I will at least remember him. Now, I want you to remember Alola's story, specifically in the original Sun and Moon. This was a very character-driven story. It was focused on Lily, her progression, a little bit on Gradion, and especially their conflict with Luzumine, their mother. This is not the kind of story we have here. This is a very events-driven story, and as I said on the Shadow Generation videos, I know we're looking some unlinkable things. I'm fine with both of those structures. I will say the benefit of this specifically is seeing the difference between Orre in Colosseum and Orre in XD. It's kind of the same thing as when you compare Unova between Black and White 1 and Black and White 2. Most of your actions in Colosseum weaken Cypher's hold over the region, and it really shows in XD. Things do get better. It's not perfect, I would say it's not even good, but it is better. XD has some new locations following the incident, like the port I've mentioned earlier. The Ender gets closed off, but you also get to see like a manor? A manor with a weird scientist guy? I don't know what, but there's the Robo-Groudon kid, so I guess it's fine. It's semi-rare, we get to see region evolve over time. We get to see Kanto in Johto-based games, which is very nice. It's also depressing, like places like Cinnabar Island just turn to shit, and that made me sad. As previously mentioned, you get to see the Gym Plasma, how it continued, like they went a little bit into hiding, but they also are no longer pretending saving Pokemon is a goal. They're very much masked off at this point, even though a faction of Gym Plasma which genuinely believed in Ant's message get to live and try to atone. It brings about some conflict with the rival character. I liked it. I liked the Unova storyline, TLDR. And in a way, Hisui also contributes to this. It's actually one of my favorite Pokemon game settings, but we will have to cross that bridge when we get to it. But, let me remind you, we are here to build a little universe on this playthrough. So here are the elements I want to take from the Orre region. First, Shadow Pokemon. It's a very interesting concept that I obviously want to steal for myself. And I want to go further and actually link it to Mega Evolution. Both processes bring out a Pokemon's latent power. Both have or can have dark impacts on the Pokemon's mental state, if we're to believe the LoL Index description at least. I want to make Shadow Pokemon basically forced unhealthy Mega Evolutions, complete with a design that feels like a twisted take on Mega Evolutions. For example, Mega Mile's second jaw having crooked teeth, or Mega Absol's wings being torn apart. At the time of this video, I'm still working on that. I haven't exactly designed Shadow Mega Forms or Shadow Forms, I don't know what to call this. So I have nothing to show about this yet, but stay tuned, TM. Then I want to take Orre's general story. It's an easy thing to steal considering it's gonna be the start point of our playthrough. And it's kind of easy to merge Colosseum and XD together because, as I mentioned in part 0, we will travel in Emerald in between, so we get a shorter time skip, but we'll at least have a time skip. So we get to have those events progress over time. And that's pretty much it. Now, before we wrap up, I want to focus on one Pokemon per episode. At least I'll try to. So, today we talk about Abby, my little Absol. I'm very good at names. Usually they're based off French Pokemon names, but Absol is fortunately the same, so you don't get to suffer that for now. Something that's funny about her is how she would almost never disobey me in Emerald. Despite the fact that I started with no badges and she was level like 50, she'd listen to 9 orders out of 10, but then she decided to use Perish Song to give me a heart attack, so that was very, very funny. As my first Pokemon, I want to draft her a kind of motherly personality? Is that the right word? I'm still feeling a bit more distant at first. More specifically, I wanted her to be protective of younger Pokemon or trainers we'd come across on our journey. When it comes to design, oh boy, let me preface this by saying I'm still very much a beginner artist. I pretty much started drawing in October. Do I sound insecure? Yes. Am I insecure? Also yes. But when I'm being obviously very brave sharing art that I know looks and smells like a beginner's, I want to preface with a very long warning. This is how I cope, please understand. Anyway, there's a lot of schools when it comes to Pokemon OC designs. Some like to change color schemes and give a lot of unique features. I, personally, just like adding a few touches, just a small amount of unique stuff. I decided to mostly do that on my X-Shadows to show some side effects from Cypher's experiments. For Abby, I want to just show scars on her horn, gotten from fighting too rough when she was still a Shadow Pokemon. I also want to give her lighter freckles on her cheeks because I think freckles are extremely cute, and there's no way my Absol isn't cute. So, you know. Anyway, yes, welcome Abby, my first Pokemon on this long yet little journey. And that's pretty much all I got from Orre. It's a very unique region for sure. I got some thoughts about it from a game design point of view, but they don't really fit in this video. I'll whip something of a review for both Colosseum and XD. One day. For now, what awaits us next time is the stop in Hoenn, and specifically its Emerald Incarnation. I hope to see you there.